It is 6 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Los Angeles Lakers are now the 7th seed in the West. They took down the New Orleans Pelicans 110-106 in. Are they changing it to the play-in tournament now? I thought it was just the play-in. Either way. The Lakers win last night. Now, good luck. They will face the Denver Nuggets in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. The New Orleans Pelicans will now have to face Sacramento, who took out the Golden State Warriors 118-94. Light the beam. The East play-in begins tonight. Heat and 76ers will battle it out for the number 2 seed to face the New York Knicks. Bulls and Hawks look to stay alive. Tyson Alger, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, is going to be joining us in hour number 3. But hour number 1 of Rip City Mornings on a Wednesday starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. And a very happy Wednesday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brenden is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you're rolling on this particular Wednesday. Somebody left the phone off the hook in here, and it's driving me crazy. I was trying to do it and do the intro at the same time, and I failed. So I thought I would just take a little beat, put the phone back on the hook. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. I want to start with this. I had forgotten. I have, much like when you put on a pair of pants and you find $20 in there that you forgot you put in there. You're like, oh, that is awesome. I forgot about that $20. Brenden, I forgot how much I like playoff basketball. I really did. After a season of watching a 21-61 Blazer team, and I know that the kids were trying hard. And after watching a regular season in the NBA where they still have not figured out load management, they still have not figured out the secret sauce or the formula to make not only everyone play more games, but to make everyone play hard after a regular season of mediocre effort. Let's just call a spade, mediocre effort. Boy, it's fun to watch NBA players, the most talented players in the world at the game of basketball, play really hard. It was so mesmerizing to watch, and I've forgotten how much I love it. I really did. I've forgotten how much I love watching NBA basketball, the most talented players in the world, actually give a hoot. I guess baseball, you could say, like, you can't, with 162 games in baseball, right, you can't play playoff baseball the same way you do, a game in July. I get it. But, like, you watch the NFL. NFL Week 3 has the same intensity as NFC to AFC Championship. It just does. Its strategy does not really change. Now, part of that is because of the limited amount of games and the non-guaranteed contracts and all that stuff. But you watch an NFL game, week 2 looks an awful lot like wild card round. It looks the same. You watch the NBA playoffs last night. And we're not even to the playoffs yet. But you put elimination on the line because I'm watching last night. First game. Lakers go, well, I think they were up, 20, 22 at one point in the game. And I'm still conditioned. My brain is still used to watching regular season NBA basketball. I'm like, great, this one's over. Lakers are moving on. Kind of wanted to see I wanted to see the Lakers lose and see the Warriors win. Got the opposite of what I wanted because I wanted another Steph versus LeBron. And by the way, conspiracy theorist, there you go. NBA did not give you Steph and LeBron in a play-in one game to go to the playoffs. So it's another bit of evidence that is conveniently forgotten to the NBA conspiracy theorists, but neither here nor there. But I'm watching, it's like, oh, this is a 20-point game. CJ's not playing very well. Brandon Ingram's not playing very well. Zion's kind of going off right now. Fun to watch, but might be a little too little, might be a little too late. maybe, and I even had this, like, maybe the Pelicans just shut it down and try to win on Friday night. Right? Shut it down, try to win on Friday night. And to the Pelicans' credit and to my enjoyment, it's like, no, we're going to make a run. We're at home. Boom, here comes the Pelican run. Here it comes. Zion, for the first time since his rookie year, Zion is looking like that shining star on the hill that we have been waiting for. 40 points, playing downhill, unstoppable at times. Like he was the bully on the block, but in the best possible way. 3 minutes to go. Bink, that's a hamstring. And he knew it too. He knew it. You saw the footage on the bench, and he throws the towel down. He's like, because he knew it. That's the same hamstring that has been bugging him. What? Didn't it cost him almost a whole year, Brenden, that hamstring? I know he had the foot, but then he had the hamstring that just would not heal. I think it was the same hamstring. Knew it exactly what had happened. Threw the towel down. 3 minutes to go. He went to the locker room. Pelicans tried to hold on. Couldn't get a stop down the stretch. Couldn't get a big shot down the stretch either. But
I mean, his injury list is, and we'll probably get to this a little bit later, but everything, I mean, he's had ankle injuries, he's had knee injuries, he's had a toe injury, he's had a thumb injury, a finger injury, a hip injury, health and safety protocols a couple times, reconditioning, quad, foot, finger. I mean,
never, it was the quad that I think I was the one that kept him out for a long, long time. Maybe he also had.
He did have a hamstring. It could have been that hamstring. That sounds about right. I think it was like back a year and a half ago.
But he run out of body parts to hurt. You know what I mean?
Big time.
He's running out of body parts to hurt, and I am always. Not always, but a lot of times when it is the most popular thing, I don't know why I do this. My brain just goes to, I don't like that. Or like when something gets overhyped, I kind of like to go the opposite way on things, which is funny because Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods are my two favorite athletes of all time. And you're like, kind of jumped on the bandwagon on those, didn't you, Jay? And I did. But, Tebow comes along like, I kind of want to see Tebow lose. LeBron, probably really good. I kind of like watching LeBron lose when everybody's jumping on board, talking about how great he is. And when everybody was trying to sell me, and as a sports fan, about Zion and how Zion Williamson is going to run roughshod over the NBA, and that he shouldn't even, once he got hurt at Duke, that he shouldn't even come back. He should just declare for the draft, which is funny because a couple of years later, that's what players started doing. I was like, all right, I don't like Zion. Not his fault. Everybody else's fault. The hype train. Like, this. Whenever somebody says, like, this guy is going to revolutionize the sport, this guy is going to completely come in and change the sport. I was like, is he, though? Are they?
Wemby might be.
I'm kind of leaning against I hope kind of Wemby doesn't live up to the hype. But finally, I've gotten past it where I kind of go like, all right, you know what? I'd like to see this Zion guy make a run. And maybe it's because he was playing against LeBron. But it was fun kind of watching Zion kind of live up to the hype that we all thought it was going to be. And then, bink, that's a hamstring, and he goes down. But, like I said, I've made this analogy before. Ironically enough, because Tyson Alger is going to be joining us in the third hour. Brenden, I don't drink ginger ale. I don't drink ginger ale. I don't really drink soda. In my past life, used to drink a lot of soda. Then I moved to diet soda because I thought it was healthier. Realized, not really. But back in my past life, I drank a lot of soda. Dr. Pepper was my favorite. Coke Zero, probably in the top 3 somewhere. And nothing wrong with a 7-Up or a Sprite or a Starry now or Sierra, whatever. But you know what I used to never drink? Ginger ale. But there's something about getting on a plane. And I know there's that old that old theory that, like, well, if you get a little motion sickness, that ginger ale helps settle your stomach. So for whatever reason, people get on a plane, can't get enough ginger ale, right? You go to a restaurant, ask for ginger ale, they're going to look at you like a weirdo. You get on a plane and ask for ginger ale, and they're like, we have 57,000 of them. Sure, would you like two? We've got... It's just something you have on a plane you don't really have in real life. But every time, like, I get on a plane and I'm like, you know what sounds real good? Ginger ale right now. And I'll be gall darn if that is not the most delicious beverage I've ever had.
It's also really good when you're sick.
That's the idea behind it.
Yeah, I've had it a ton of times when I'm like not feeling good.
Do you think it's a placebo, or do you think it actually has some medicinal?
I think ginger's medicinally. Very much how they like to say, like, there are certain herbs and plants, like garlic I heard's good for you, but ginger.
But point being is, I'm not an everyday ginger ale drinker, but you get on the plane and you're like, ginger ale sounds about right. And, you go, golly, I forgot how good that was. That's kind of how I felt last night watching the NBA. It's like, man, I've forgotten how good playoff basketball was. Now, I don't know how you make it to where you get the toothpaste back in the tube or unspread the peanut butter, because load management is here to stay. Once players realize that if I am at a certain level, I just don't play every single night. I don't know how, like, they tried bribing him. You can't win an award. And by the way, I saw, like, was it the comeback player of the year? With the leading candidate for comeback player of the year, 9 seconds ineligible because of the games played rule. About 9 seconds ineligible. But I don't know how you do, like, playoff basketball in the regular season. I don't know if we're ever going back to that, but felt good last night. Pumped up to watch some actual effort. And I know, old man yells at cloud. Justin is talking about, back in my day, they played hard every night. They probably didn't. It felt like they did. They probably didn't. But what's like ginger ale on a plane? I was like, man, I've forgotten how much I had forgotten how much I like NBA playoff basketball. Maybe I was just beaten down by a 21-61 Blazer season as well. More on that. Is the Warrior dynasty over? What a weird way for this dynasty to end. We're going to compare it to other dynasties because I am declaring it finito. Maybe dive back into some more Zion as well. We got college football news. Leaked information from the College Sports Tomorrow Super League plan. One thing that I predicted is, well, not exactly coming true, but we're on the same thought plane, which is good. And stuff we saw on the internet, make or miss, Tyson Alger, RCM Mailbag. We are locked and loaded on a Wednesday. More Rip City Mornings coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. Dynasties in sports, they're a tricky thing. Unless you are emotionally, sometimes financially, invested in the team that is currently on a dynasty-like run, we kind of go through a wave of emotions as fans, right? When they first start off, it's usually fresh and new and kind of fun. Then it's like, all right, respect, you guys. And then by the end, it's like, all right, this is getting old. And we kind of go through this, the typical build them up to tear them down. Dynasties are also tricky in the way that we define them. What is a dynasty? And I like to think of it like the Supreme Court decision on, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I can't define a dynasty. I just know it when I see it. You know what I mean? Can't define it. Can't put, like, is it
legendary court case?
Kind of is. We quote it probably more than the real important ones. It's like, I can't define a dynasty, but I know it when I see it. And clearly, when you go back and look at the Golden State Warriors and the run that they have been on all the way up until, I think we can say last year, it was one of the great dynasties of NBA basketball. It just is. So let's start off by identifying the great NBA basketball dynasties, because there's not as many as you would think. Now, you can go back into the 70s and the 60s and the early days of the NBA. And obviously there is the Bill Russell Celtics dynasty with Red Auerbach and everything else. But Red Auerbach was also very good at finding loopholes, and the salary cap wasn't really kind of a thing, and it wasn't exactly the even playing field. But sure, there's the great Celtics dynasty of the Bill Russell era in the past. But in the modern era of NBA basketball, which is Magic and Bird moving forward, there's really only like 6 dynasties, right? You had the Lakers and the Celtics in the 80s. Those two teams, when you look at the amount of times that they were in the finals, the amount of times that they were. So you got those two dynasties of the 80s. Clearly the Bulls of the 90s. Then you had the Lakers of the early 2000s. Then the Spurs, which I would contend was a dynasty. And then you have the Golden State Warriors. Really, like, am I missing one here? I don't consider the Heat and their 4-year run a dynasty. They only won 2. If they would have won 3 in a row, we'd be in the discussion. But I'm not putting the Heat and their culture in the dynasty discussion. I'm not putting the Pistons. The bad boy Pistons are not in the discussion. They had a good run, but they were not a dynasty. Do you split up the 2 Kobe dynasties? Or does that kind of count as one? Because you had the Kobe Shaq Lakers. Then they broke up. Went away for a little bit, came back, got Paul Gasol, and then got Phil Jackson back and kind of had like a remake or like a long-awaited sequel. But I think that's still just one dynasty, right? It's the Lakers, it's Kobe, and it's Phil Jackson.
So 2 is not enough?
Again, I know it when I see it. Who are we talking about here?
The Rockets 2 years when Jordan was retired.
All right. We don't have an alarm for this, but we might install Jordan Homer alert. I am hardest on LeBron James with the bubble championship and not counting it. Close on that list. And can I preface this on the record? This is what I'm about to say is massively unfair. Massively unfair and kind of petty. It's tough to look at those as real championships because Jordan was playing baseball. Sorry, Clyde. Sorry, Akeem.
I also look at it as take advantage of your opportunities.
That's very true. Like I said, Brenden, I said petty and unfair. I said it. It's like, you know how when you say, with all due respect, and then you can just say whatever you want. I said petty and unfair. But the fact that they never got back, though, to
That might
the
be
finals.
one of the most famous things that people have taken off and ran with, Justin, is literally like the for lack of better terms, the Ricky Bobby of it all.
I
It's
said with all due respect.
It's in the Geneva Convention. Look it up. I mean,
It is.
It's
I
classic.
said it's going to be petty and unfair.
I'll give it to you, but that's fair.
Here'd be my case against, though, the Rockets as a dynasty, the Rockets of the 90s. They never made it back to the finals, right? They never made it back to the finals after that 2-year run. They weren't in the finals before that, whereas, you look at the Warriors run, obviously 4 championships, but they had a trip to the finals sprinkled in there as well. So that's kind of where usually it's in like the Spurs, right? The Spurs never really won. They never won 3 in a row, but for an established period of time, they were the team to beat. Every team in the NBA had to factor in the Spurs. There was not an established period of time where you had to factor in the Rockets, other than those 2 years, which was a fun run. But I wouldn't put them out as a dynasty. They feel a lot like the Bad Boy Pistons. Bad Boy Pistons, boom, 2 years, came in, and by the time Michael Jordan got things figured out, they were an afterthought. And then by the time in the Western Conference that Karl Malone and John Stockton got things figured out and age and injuries and everything else, now the Rockets were an afterthought in the 90s. So I'm going to say no on the Rockets, just like I'm saying no, like.
Even though the Pistons made 3 straight finals.
Yeah, it's true.
Got the 2, but 3 straight finals.
I know. I hate them so much.
I know you
though.
do.
I hate them so much.
And I won't push back. Like
you were not A, alive, and B, not emotionally invested in this. Would you say Pistons of the late 80s, early 90s, would you say dynasty? I don't know if I'm ready to say that.
I don't know if that's quite the word, but like to your point, we can't sit here and pretend like it's a cause and effect thing, right? For me, without the Pistons, Michael Jordan is not the winner he is.
100%.
Guaranteed.
100%.
He's not. He does not.
The journey you got to go through.
And, also, Justin, I'm biased because it's one of my favorite 30 for 30s. Bad Boys is a pretty darn good one.
Yeah, it was good.
You're like, yeah, it is.
I also like.
But I wouldn't say dynasty. Great run, though.
It's funny to think about from a sports fan's perspective. A little bit off the beaten path here. Welcome to the show, everybody. You and I, we have very different fandoms with our college football teams. As a matter of fact, our college football fandoms are at odds with one another for the time being. It's always been funny to me. Like I, as a kid, grew up there with because I watched too much Hulk Hogan and WWF back then. There were good guys and bad guys. When I was growing up, and when I was 9 or when I was 8, when the Bad Boy they named themselves the Bad Boys, but they were the bad guys. That's the Iron Sheik. You know what I mean? Michael Jordan's Hulk Hogan. The good guy has to win. So it is interesting when you see that 30 for 30 and you remember like, oh yeah, there were fans of that team that believed they were the good guys. Like they think they're the good ones.
100%.
And I'm like, no, you were the bad guys. Because, as a 9-year-old, I watched a lot of wrestling.
Oh, yeah. So, 3 finals is tough to argue against. I don't know if I'd say dynasty because...
No, because I don't want to put the Heat in there as well.
Because as soon as
4 straight finals and 2 wins for the Heat doesn't make a dynasty, right?
Yeah, it's... The Heat's different because that was a built super team. The Pistons, I will give some credit because, again, to that point, Justin, the Pistons were maybe the worst team in basketball. And, oh gosh, what was his name? Jack McCloskey.
Trader Jack?
Yeah, and built them up from the ground up. Granted, now, like Justin
they got
said,
Isaiah Thomas too.
They had a whole lot of guys that, weren't likable. Was this same Pistons team that robbed our Portland Trailblazers. At what did Terry Porter famously say going into the locker room, Justin, after they took a game from Detroit?
They took a game from him and said, we're going back to the crib and we're not coming back or something like that. We're taking 2 at the crib or something like that. Yeah.
Spot on. So, it's, other than that, I'm like, I would have liked to see, the Blazers crack through that year.
So when we're talking dynasties now, Celtics, Lakers, 80s, Bulls, 90s, Pistons close, but no cigar. Then you got Lakers early 2000, Lakers of the 2000s. Let's just call it that. Then you got to throw the Spurs in there, like the Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili Spurs, and then the Warriors. That's it. That's all I would say for an actual dynasty in the NBA. So last night, did we see the Warriors dynasty fall? Is it now finally over? Because I remember when Steph Curry and the Warriors and shooting all the threes and everything else a handful of years ago, that was remember, it was refreshing. It was the team the NBA needed at the time. Remember, the NBA at the time was coming off of, it was still a ways away from the Malice at the Palace, but the NBA was not really at its best. And it was a lot of big men, and it was a lot of boring basketball, and it was still kind of in that, not exactly the 90s bully ball era, and all of a sudden, here come the Warriors. Here come the Warriors, and you got the Splash Brothers. You got two guys, and you can't win with two guys in the backcourt that shoot. Remember that theory? Can't win with Steph and Clay. They shoot too much. Can't win with those guys.
Can't win an NBA championship with a jump shooting team. I'll never forget that.
It's
10 years ago now.
Charles Barkley was like, I believe Charles Barkley said they play like a women's team.
Oops.
Charles Barkley can say whatever he wants.
See, it's been 10 years.
You and I would get in a big bit of trouble.
It's actually kind of funny, though, Justin, because when you look at it, it is exactly 10 years since the Warriors broke through and had that year where we're like, hey, there's the three-point shooting team. It was, Steve Kerr's first year.
But they're not going to win like that.
No.
Can't win a championship with
Exactly.
a bunch of jump shooters. Can't win like that. You got to be able to rebound, and you got to have a big man. And they won
NBA changed a lot in 10 years.
They won a lot. Turns out three's more than two, and you focus on that, you're going to win. And then, but it was a refreshing kind of shot in the arm that the NBA needed. Steph Curry was the hero that we didn't expect and didn't know we needed, but they did. We were all getting a little tired of LeBron. Kobe was on the back end, and it kind of ending for Kobe. And it's like, remember we had, who's going to be the new face of the NBA? And it's like, well, clearly it's LeBron's league now. It's like Steph Curry was like, no, sir, my league now. And Steph Curry became one of the most popular, if not the most popular player. And then we got to the point where we do with dynasties. I'm tired of these guys. And Draymond
Would we have got there without Durant?
Draymond had something to do with that. Kevin Durant had something to do with that. But we all got to that point where we're like, right, I'm kind of done with these guys. Kind of over it. And I remember, partially because the Blazers in 2019 and what happened in that Western Conference Finals when it was like, we are not close. But when the Raptors beat them, it was almost like the NBA, ding dong, the witch is dead, right? The Raptors have beat Durant's got a blown up Achilles. He's gone. We would lose Clay for 2 years. Steph would break his hand. And it's like, all right, which is why this is the most unique dynasty maybe in NBA history. Doesn't make it the best. The most unique is the fact that probably should have written him off after the 2019 championship that the Raptors won. Because then Steph Curry broke his hand, COVID, awful draft pick in James Wiseman, right? Awful draft. Like, think about the organizations that would just cease to exist with that terrible of a draft pick in James Wiseman. Injury. Clay goes from ACL to Achilles. And Steph, broken hand, terrible draft pick. What? They weren't dead. They weren't dead. They were. Draymond is a menace, right? No, turns out they're not. They had one last zombie scare. But last night felt like it was over. And that's why the Warriors dynasty is maybe one of the most unique dynasties in the history of the NBA. One, there's only like 6. But 2 is usually dynasties are broken up before they fade away, right? The Bulls dynasty was broken up. Jordan retired again. Phil Jackson was forced out. Scottie Pippen was not re-signed, and Rodman was let go. And they went complete reset because Jerry Krause couldn't get over the fact that he didn't get the credit, even though he probably should have gotten a little more credit than he did. He wasn't exactly a dunce that they made him out to be, but He also,
and, Jerry Reinsdorf was part of that, too.
yes, yeah, Jerry Reinsdorf, by the way, legendarily cheap. And then Reinsdorf, after the fact,
I would have paid him.
if they'd all come back and but that's how that dynasty ended. The Celtics dynasty of the 80s went with Larry Bird's back. Larry Bird's back went out, cut his. By the way, I don't know if we're ever going to get like the actual true story on that. Like things I want the truth on, Larry Bird's back. Because rumor was
the rumors.
he paved his own driveway.
His mom's driveway, actually. Yeah.
And he threw out his back, and that plagued him for a massive amount of his career. But it was Larry Bird's back. It was Kevin McHale's foot. It was, you know what I mean? It was injuries and just boom. And it was kind of, and it ended with, interestingly enough, the Detroit Pistons beating them, and the Celtics were like, yep, it's kind of over. Also, there's the Len Bias part of that, too, which is a lot of people forget about. Like, the Celtics had Len Bias, and then he didn't make it to the – so, Celtics dynasty ended. Lakers dynasty ended partially with Michael Jordan, partially with Magic Johnson, HIV, retirement. That ended what was the 80s Lakers trickling into the 90s, but like the Warriors went dormant for 3 years and then popped back up out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
And then last night just kind of faded away.
Yeah, I think age will do that, right? A lot of miles on them legs. But still, it's one of those things where their uniforms are magic, and I wasn't going to believe the Warriors were out until they're out, but
it's the same thing I do like with Tiger Woods, right? Like that's still Tiger Woods. I know it's Sunday red, not a Nike swoosh, but that's still a red shirt, and that's still Tiger. It's like, yeah, it's not.
It's true.
That ain't him.
And like you said, how many other organizations, I think that to me, the Warriors' final championship is the most impressive. And that's because, like Justin said.
More than the first one?
For me, yeah. Because you look at that first one, all them guys are on young deals. That first one was one with depth, right? They had 10 guys because, hey, Steph Curry is making $14 million a year. Pretty good deal, right? Then, the whole Draymond KD thing happened. And Draymond very famously uttered, "We won before you were here, Kevin. We're going to win after you're here, Kevin."
And then Draymond punched out
their future. Just
in Jordan Poole.
Just like
and they still ended up winning.
Like Space Jam.
Or no, that was after they.
It was.
It was like won, and then he punched him out. The punch is really the beginning of the end, wasn't it?
It's like Space Jam. They punched the talent out of Jordan Poole, Justin.
And kind of punched their way.
It's true.
Into 10th place and now into the lottery. All right, we got some more basketball to talk about with Round Ball Rock. We got some Eastern Conference play-in action coming up tonight as well. So we'll dive into that as we wrap up hour number one. Before we do that, I do want to tell you, though, about another dynasty. That's right, DeBella. Oregon's roofing, siding, windows. That's three things. Add in bath experts. 4 ways to the dynasty for DeBella. And, of course, proud supporter of Operation Homefront. 15,000 5-star reviews. That's dynasty stuff as well. That's their customers telling you exactly how much they appreciate and approve of DeBella's work. Plus, award-winning customer service with accolades from Angie's List and Home Advisor. And no, it's not just all about the great work. While that is great, how about this deal? No payments till 2025 on approved credit. That's right. It's an amazing financing opportunity of 0 payments until 2025. Plus, on top of that, how about going solar with your roof and maybe potentially paying for your new roof with savings to your energy bill and federal or state incentives? All you got to do is contact DeBella for all the details. No obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, bath projects. A proud supporter of Operation Homefront Tent. Contact DeBella today. All right, wrapping up hour number one. We had postseason basketball last night. Not playoff basketball, but postseason basketball last night, seeing the Warriors eliminated. All right, real quick, before we get the Tesh going, all right, Brenden, help me out because every time we start talking about this, my brain overheats and kind of turns to mush. So, Warriors losing last night, good for the Blazers, kinda, right? Because the Blazers currently own the Warriors' first round pick. So the fact that they did not make it into the actual playoffs means that that pick now goes into the lottery. If that pick stays out of the top three, Blazers get it? It's top three protected, or is it top?
Either top 3 or top 4 protected.
This is why my brain turns to mush. And they didn't get it from the Warriors. They got it from the Celtics?
Yes. So it is the Warriors' pick, but it's been passed around about 3-4 times across the NBA for various reasons. Yes, projected 1 through 4, Justin.
1 through 4. Okay.
So if, as of this moment,
so best case scenario, Blazers get the number 1 pick, Warriors get the number 5 pick, and I don't care how low this draft class is. Let's go, baby.
So we
got a Rookie of the Year on the way.
Yeah. So as fun as it would be for that to happen, Justin, there's actually really simply just a few possibilities. There's either a 3.6% chance they get 1 through 4.
The Warriors.
Yes.
Which is the Who gets the pick does it just go to next year?
Yes, it becomes a non-protected pick in next year's draft, which
okay, but
might not be the worst.
Can I ask a dumb question?
No dumb questions.
Yes,
with this
there
complications.
This one is a dumb question. All right. That ping pong ball beep, 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 goes to number 4. Not the Blazers pick. Whose pick is it? Is it the Celtics pick?
Wait, say that again?
That top 4 protected pick.
It goes to the Warriors.
Okay. But I thought it got from it's top 4 protected from the Celtics, which means that's just already what it is.
Yes.
So if the ping pong ball bounces to number 4 or above for the Warriors get that pick.
They do.
Okay.
Now, with that, Justin,
do the Blazers have another what happens next year?
So here's the good news with that.
Do the Blazers hold on to number 1 pick next year?
Yes, it would turn into a pick next year that has no protections on it. So when Golden State traded this pick originally to Memphis, so if
we're playing the long game, let's say Blazers have Warriors pick fall to number 4. Next year, the Warriors are awful. Let's just say they're terrible. Warriors get the number 1 pick. Blazers don't have to tank, still have the number 1 pick.
That would be a plausible scenario. Yes, it would.
That is an actual thing that can happen.
So with that
Tell me that wasn't a dumb question. It was kind of a dumb question.
No, not at all. With that being said, like I told Justin, other than the Cleveland Cavaliers, the year they got Kyrie with like a 1% chance.
Yeah, because, of all the times that the NBA, I think it was maybe rigged, that one kind of felt like it. It's like, sorry you lost LeBron.
Yeah.
You get the number 1 pick.
But yeah, Justin, I'm a math guy. I'm a numbers guy. There is a 96.6% chance that Warriors pick stays at 14. That's a really big number.
Stays at 14.
So it's either 14
Giannis was a 15 pick.
Right.
In case you're wondering.
Right. So they'll get that pick. It's not. I would be shocked. It'd be the lottery to end all lotteries. But yeah, I mean, this time, Justin, unlike a couple years ago, they're actually going to have a pair of lottery picks, and no one can take them away.
I'm trying to look. I'm looking right now at number 14 picks. Hey, Bam Adebayo was a 14 pick.
You never know, man. You never know.
Let's get to some Tesh real quick, and I'm going to go through this list. This list is very fun. Okay, so if not that anything matters, because we know that there's MVPs that have been second-round picks, and there have been number 1 overall picks that have been busts, and everything and anything in between. So you say it's 97% chance that the Blazers have the number 14 pick from the Warriors.
Very high odds.
Last year, Jordan Hawkins, did he play last night? He didn't make much of a difference. I don't remember him. But he was number 14. So Jordan Hawkins, 2023, number 14 pick. Abaji from Cleveland. He's
decent.
He's not bad.
He's a decent player.
I know who he is. That's good.
That's Justin's litmus test, folks.
If
Do I know who you are?
Moses Moody to the Warriors in 2021. Boy, the Warriors have had some really bad drafts. I mean, they hit some home runs. Draymond in the second round. Right? That's maybe, other than Jokic, Draymond may be one of the best second-round picks of modern time. But, man.
He's been okay. Moody's been okay.
I haven't heard of him, so.
I like the guy 2018. Let's skip past a couple Celtics.
Well, all right. Aaron Naismith, Romeo Langford.
2 busts for the Celtics, man. Back-to-back years.
Michael Porter Jr.
And that guy's pretty good.
He's pretty good. He's
really
tall
good.
and shoots threes, right?
He does.
How's the back holding up, though? Didn't he have back problems?
Dude, everyone's like, don't draft him. He's going to have a career back problem. As it turns out, modern medicine does some good things, Justin.
Man. Bam Adebayo. Denzel Valentine. Is he a UConn guy? Or Villanova. Is he a Villanova guy? Probably should know this. Anyways,
Michigan State.
Michigan, not
That's
even
right.
close,
Yeah.
Justin. Now that you say that, I remember him at Michigan. Cam Payne, he's a number 14 overall pick. TJ Warren. Shabazz Muhammad. Did he have a run with the Blazers? Or am I thinking of a
I think
different
you're
guy?
thinking Shabazz Napier.
That's different Shabazz. Isn't that crazy? There's been 2 Shabazzes
I know, right?
in the NBA.
Yeah, but
Only one.
That's an interesting.
Only one LeBron, but 2 Shabazzes. How about that?
Oh, hey, Justin, there's
2012, John Henson. Don't know who he is.
for selfish purposes, can you skip down to 2003, 2002? I think you might enjoy.
I love these guys.
Yep.
I am so pumped. Okay, first off, now we're getting into guys I've actually heard of because this is when I watch college basketball. So number 14 overall picks, Patrick Patterson. Remember him. Marcus Morris. Anthony Randolph to the
There's
Warriors.
a name.
There's a name. Al Thornton.
Remember him?
Don't remember Al Thornton.
Yeah, very, very, interesting.
Now, Ronnie Brewer. Remember that guy. Rashad McCants, he was legit at North Carolina. He was fun to watch. Chris Humphries, Chris Humphries.
Oh, of course.
Married Kim Kardashian.
Yep.
So that
didn't last very long. Though.
No, but it's looking up. And then back-to-back number 14 picks. Luke Ridnour, the pride of Blaine, Washington. And then the man from Barlow. I think he was 2-time Oregon Basketball Player of the Year. I don't know if he was a 4-time like Peyton Pritchard, because I don't know if they gave it back then. He could have and probably should have. But Fred, call me Freddie, because I'm from Oregon. I interviewed him one time because he became Fred Jordan or Fred Jones. And I was like, I interviewed him one time. I was like, can I call you? He's like, you're from Oregon. You can call me Freddie. And I'm like,
nice.
my man. Freddie Jones. And then 2001, Troy Murphy, that Notre Dame, tall guy from Notre Dame, I think Troy Murphy was. Mateen Cleaves, national champion. He was at Michigan State. So there you go. That's what we're looking at. There's some home runs in there. There's some strikeouts. There's kind of everything in between.
It's like we talked about with Philly, right? Philly had a ton of cracks at it. They only needed to find one Embiid.
How about back-to-back 14 picks for the Celtics? And they took Aaron Naismith and Romeo Langford. And 4 years later, they're the best team in the NBA with neither of those 2 dudes.
Yeah, they're end of the bench guys, but you see them playing on their team now? Nope.
All right, coming up next, we have got Make or Miss coming up in hour number 2, stuff we saw on the internet. Oh, Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders is back. Hour number 2 coming up next, 620, Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA play-in action last night. The LA Lakers are now the 7th seed in the West. They took down the New Orleans Pelicans 110-106. They will face the Denver Nuggets in the first round in a rematch of the Western Conference Finals from last year. New Orleans now bounces back to play Sacramento, who knocked out the Golden State Warriors 118-94. So New Orleans, Sacramento, and it looks likely New Orleans will be without Zion Williamson, who left in the fourth quarter with a hamstring injury last night. Play-in begins in the East tonight. Heat and the 76ers for a chance at that 2 seed to face the New York Knicks, and the Bulls and Hawks will face elimination to try to stay alive in the nightcap. Coming up in hour number 3, Tyson Alger, friend of the program, is going to be joining the show. But hour 2 of Rip City Morning starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Excited to be with you. Excited to be on the big show. Thanks for hanging out with us, even a smidge of your time or a lot of your time. We truly appreciate you hanging out with us, whether it's once a week or whether it's each and every day. A lot of stuff to dive into here in hour number 2. We're going to have Make or Miss coming up in about 20 minutes. In about 40-some minutes, stuff we saw on the internet. New ballpark food? Is that what we're gonna, I saw some other stuff on the internet too, which was fascinating. But new ballpark food, we are going to. Brenden is one of the pickiest eaters, and I don't say that as a criticism. I say that as an observation that he is very particular and picky, but also that there is neither rhyme nor reason to what he will and will not eat. So we're going to do a little ballpark food. Would you try it? Would you try it?
I have a feeling, Justin, that you haven't spent a whole lot of time around the youth.
No.
Because if you think I'm
What
picky,
gave you that
I'd
idea?
love for you to come meet my brother who's 18. Oh man.
Well, no, I have nieces and nephews, and again, I'm not their parent. I'm cool Uncle Justin. That's all I am trying to be. I'm trying to be cool Uncle Justin. But the food stuff, yeah, I gotta bite my tongue. I was like,
yep, it's a little different.
We're having scrambled eggs and hash browns for breakfast. Like, I don't want that. It's like, who doesn't want that?
We created that.
That's
but no,
the best. So
yes.
I bite my tongue, and that's about the only young people I hang around with. But yeah, well, here's the thing. I understand what most of it. Tell me, and feel free to tell me if I'm wrong. Not with you, but with, I think, maybe even people younger than you. It's a very bland palate, right? No, like, I don't like mustard. I don't like spicy stuff. It feels like very bland. Like, doesn't your brother want hamburger but no ketchup on it, right?
He's expanding his food palate a little bit.
I've never met the kid. I want to take that kid under my wing.
Which
be like, all right, we're gonna try some buffalo wings.
And there's some things that he likes that I don't. So right, tit for tat as they go. And I think overall it's one of those things where, you are like, to your point, bite your tongue. I think it's how you're raised, kind of. And for my entire life, Justin, it was, Brendan's a picky eater. Then as I got older, it's like, well, that sounds negative. We don't need to be negative to anyone about what they like or don't like. And then all of a sudden, it's like, now kids aren't picky eaters anymore, Justin. It's, Jimmy doesn't like this, so we have to make something different.
Options aren't always a good thing. You know what I mean?
I'm not advocating
But then
for
again, I think about it from my perspective, and it's probably hard to fathom for you that when I was in elementary school, not only did you not get options, but you were required to eat your lunch. You're required. You could not say, I don't like that. You had to try it. And if you did not try it, Mrs. Berman would sit there and wait until you tried it, and you could not go out to recess until you tried everything on your tray. That is the world that I grew up in.
We always had recess before lunch.
Recess before lunch?
Yeah.
No. See, they used that as a dangling carrot at McGovern Elementary. Shout out to the Cheetahs. The dangling carrot of, you want to go play tetherball? You want to go play some Foursquare? Try eating that spinach. This spinach is disgusting. And then, of course, we all learned the tried and true method, which was you wait till Miss Berman gets distracted, and spinach or peas or cooked carrots, which is funny because I like cooked carrots now. Didn't like them then. My palate has expanded as an adult, but back then, steamed mushy vegetables, not my favorite. Throw them in the milk carton. Yep.
Nice.
Right in the milk carton. So I've tried it.
Oh,
or
yeah.
like
I'm trying to think
peas. Like peas were easy. You just
that's small.
you just make a little circle in the middle and be like, yeah, I took that bite, and it's like, see, I tried it. I don't like it. You just make a little circle in the middle. Spinach was a little bit tougher because it was sloppy and disgusting.
Yeah, I'll say this. Thankfully, my earliest time at elementary school, that was you. They didn't care. Like, you could go get food, Justin, and there were 200, 300 other kids in the cafeteria that 2 teachers had to keep an eye on, right? So it was like,
well, it's hard to believe because my town was so small. But my middle school or my elementary school was actually a lot of students.
Okay,
we had
fair
a
enough.
lot of students
Fair
because we didn't have, I don't know how many elementary schools Sherwood has.
5.
We had one.
Yeah,
we had one, all funneled in. McGovern Elementary.
At the time, it was 3. But yeah, it was like, oh, your friends went to that one, or your other friends lived over there went to that one. But yeah, and I distinctly remember, like, oh yeah, you'd go and there were 3 options per day. So
that must have been nice.
Yeah, that makes a difference for sure.
All that being said, in 40 minutes from now, we are going to look at ballpark food around the Major League Baseball world, and we're going to play a game because we all know Justin's going to eat it. Like, you put ballpark food in front of me.
There's some crazy cool stuff.
Because in Seattle, there's some interesting things up there. There was the Ichi roll. There was a time where sushi kind of freaked me out, and then I was like, no, this is awesome. This is the best thing ever. So I've had the Ichi roll. There is Edgar's Cantina. They're in left field, and I believe they've got some exotic meats in their nachos. Tried those. Pretty good. So we'll dive into that. I got to talk Dion real quick. All right, so remember about 2 weeks ago, Deion Sanders went on a podcast and talked about how, well, I can't go recruit at everybody's house because I'm famous and it would be too much of a distraction. It's like, Deion, you have not made one in-home visit. He's like, yeah, I want him to see my home because I can't do it. Let's just be honest. Coach Prime, he starts speaking in third person, and it's like, I can't go out because if I go there but I don't go here, they're going to get mad at me. They're not going to send me players. Like, you offer a scholarship to a high school kid, they're going to send you players. Either way. So Deion Sanders in this whole thing saying, I can't go recruit on the road like other coaches because I am too famous. In that same podcast, remember we talked about how he said there are just going to be some teams that Shedeur ain't going to play for. And Travis Hunter, because apparently Deion is now taking over control of Travis Hunter's career, which good luck with that in about a year. So we now have the teams. We now have the. Now remember, he said he didn't want because Shedeur was from Dallas and he's not going to cold weather cities, right? He's not going to cold weather cities. So we now have the 5 teams that he will allow, or no, I believe it's 6 teams that he will allow Shedeur Sanders to play for. Are you ready for these? They are the Atlanta Falcons. They are the San Francisco 49ers. They are the Dallas Cowboys. They are the Washington Commanders. They are the Baltimore Ravens, and they are the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Brenden, I don't know how much of an NFL historian you are, but do you see a pattern in any of those teams? Like if you look at it like Tom Hanks in the Da Vinci Code and you start like, whoa, I'm seeing patterns here. Do you see any pattern there in the teams that Deion Sanders said that his son and friend and teammate will play for in the NFL?
It's a good question. They're all pretty, well, I don't know, since they're all pretty big brands.
Yeah.
But then The Falcons being in there is kind of interesting.
Yep.
And
And
I want
again,
to say they all need quarterback.
no,
Yeah, no. You might have me stumped a little bit here.
I think you're going to get a kick out of this. If you take the Philadelphia Eagles out of it.
It's all warm. It's not even. No, it's not weather. No.
No, it's not. It's not weather.
Because I'm like, I thought you'd be trying to pull
so
one
let's
over
just
on
take
me.
let's just eliminate the Eagles. So the
Okay.
5 teams: Falcons, 49ers, Cowboys.
Are those all the teams Dion played for?
Bingo.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah.
Deion Sanders
Okay.
played for 5 teams. He's got all 5 of them in there.
In my defense, I was.
Let's make this more about you, Deion.
In my defense, I was what? Was
That's
I even
why I said
alive for half of these teams?
That's
when
why I
he played?
said you had to be an NFL
But yeah,
historian.
okay. Yeah, good call. Good call. I was like the Eagles. That taking it out, I knew that would.
So
Trigger it.
yeah, it's according to the New York Post. Now I don't know exactly if it's now 6, but yeah. Wait, he said he's not going to play in the cold. Baltimore. Baltimore's in the AFC North, right? Nothing but cold weather there. Philadelphia in the NFC East, other than in Dallas, nothing but cold weather there. Same thing with the Washington Commanders. The only 2 warm weather cities on that list, well, I guess 3, Falcons, 49ers, and Cowboys. Brady's picking the teams that he played for. And then I think maybe realized, like, I got to throw in another Philadelphia. But here's the other thing. He also said that Shedeur Sanders was going to be a top 3 pick in the draft next year. So maybe the Commanders might be there next year, but the Commanders are taking Jaden Daniels. They're not shopping for a quarterback. Jalen Hurts ain't going anywhere. Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to be around for a while. Brock Purdy is going to be there. The only team on that list, well, I guess the Falcons, because Dak Prescott, I think maybe he's got one more year with the Cowboys. Like the only team on that list that had a need for quarterback is the Falcons.
Yeah, that's a very pointed and interesting list.
Is it? I mean, again, I believe the term is gaslighting, but it's like, can we now maybe look and realize, like, Deion does not know what he's doing?
Well, and
Like, can we just finally maybe admit, like, he doesn't know what he's doing?
Sure, I agree. And then can we also just admit that, like, I'm sorry, like maybe he comes out this year, lights the Big 12 on fire. I'm sorry, Shedeur Sanders is not Caleb Williams. Like,
I mean, I think Shedeur Sanders is a good quarterback.
He's good,
I
but-
think he's a good college quarterback.
good enough
might
to-
be he's not better than Bo Nix or Michael Penix. That
is he
was
good
clear.
enough to pick where he wants to go?
That he
Okay.
is not.
So
and
there
that
you
is
go. Like Caleb Williams probably could pull it off. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Probably not. I don't think Drake May could say,
by the
"Hey,
way-
I really want to go here and nobody else." Like, I don't think so.
And also, by the way, Caleb Williams kind of tried to pull it off, and they're
He
like,
did.
no, you're not. You're going to Chicago. Enjoy it. All right, coming up next, we have got Make or Miss. Also, later on this hour, we've got some ballpark food. More Rip City Mornings coming up on the other side. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor is going to be joining us on the big show. We got Oregon spring game, I think, a week and a half away. So that's coming up in about 10 days down there at Autzen Stadium. I think a lot of people are going to be going, especially if the weather's nice, right? That's a huge key. Yes, Brenden.
You going to go?
I am not going to go. I am going to be at a concert in Tacoma at the Tacoma Dome. I shall be watching Cody Johnson, the
Nice.
the Texas country superstar. Me and Kojo and my wife going to be partying up at the Tacoma Dome. So I'm not going to be at the spring game. I decided to.
Tacoma Dome better or worse than the Kingdom? You've been to both as a
For what purpose?
I've never, just in general. In general, like I've never been to either, so I'm just curious.
Well, the Tacoma Dome is still standing. That tells you something there. The Kingdome, for sports, right, in the 80s and the 90s was not that bad.
They open around the same time? Or was Kingdom had to predate?
I think Kingdome predated because Tacoma Dome is kind of like a carbon copy of Kingdome. Like
that's why I was.
It's like it's the JV version. I hate to say it, but it is. It's the JV version. Definitely not as big.
Only 4 years apart. How about that?
Yeah, because they built the Kingdome and they were like,
let's do it again.
There was a wild time when domes were like it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I think the Astrodome was the first. Like, the Astrodome went up, and, like, that was the eighth wonder of the world. The Astrodome. It was huge. It's like, hey, we're going to be in the Astrodome. We are going to get out of the oppressive Houston heat. It's going to be air-conditioned inside watching football. And then the Metrodome came around.
65 for the Astrodome, if you can believe it. That's a long time ago.
When was the Kingdome?
A Kingdome
like
came
68?
online in 70?
72?
76.
Not even close.
The Metrodome came online in 79. So that must have late 70s.
70s was a hot time. There were two things in the 70s that were hot in stadiums. It was domes, right? Because there's the Kingdome, there was the Metrodome. I think the RCA Dome in Indianapolis was built around that time. The Tacoma Dome, like domes were hot in the streets back in the 70s. When was the RCA Dome built?
81.
81. Pontiac Silverdome. When was the Silverdome built? That's got to be 70s. Detroit, Pontiac Silverdome.
Let's see.
Home of WrestleMania 3. Andre the
75,
Giant.
75.
Boom. 75. Okay. One more. Superdome. New Orleans. When was the Superdome built? It's got to be right in the same time.
75.
I mean, think about that stretch, right? The Astrodome's built, and then from 75 to 81, you had Superdome, Kingdome, Metrodome, Silverdome. Like, don't
still in the 80s, Georgia Dome as well. Throw that one in there.
The Georgia Dome is the 80s. Georgia Dome when it had to be 80. I thought
Late
Georgia Dome was the 90s.
89. So basically the end of. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, there hasn't been a dome built in many
now
years.
It's retractable roofs, right? Because the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is technically a dome, right? But they've got the spiral that opens up at the top. Jerry's World's kind of a dome, but it opens up. So you got Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium. That's not a dome as a structure, but it's covered. They just stopped making them in that shape because Lucas Oil Stadium, Energy Stadium, Bank of America Stadium in Minneapolis, like they're all inside in Ford Field, but like they're not the domes. I wonder when the last RCA Dome might have been the last dome that was built. And then they just started saying, like, hey, we can just build a regular stadium and then we just put a roof on it.
Would you say the Georgia Dome? Or is that too late?
Toronto, Sky Dome. Sky Dome, I want to say, was 1991. And Sky Dome was I felt like I was looking at the internet. It was like, wait, they can play inside and outside.
89.
89, Sky Dome was built, also home of a WrestleMania. But Brenden, you do not understand how much our brains flipped when they're building this thing in Toronto. They're calling it the Sky Dome. And you're like, why would you call it the Sky Dome? You can't see the sky inside a dome. They're like, oh, wait. It opens up. And we're like, what? Like a sunroof of a car? Yeah, I think Sky Dome was the last dome built.
A little bit of quick.
And then everybody was like, well, why don't we just, that retractable roof thing, that seems awesome. Let's make those. That's what we have.
Yeah, I think we also got a shout out to, I didn't know this, Justin. Did you know, the largest, which team has the largest dome stadium of any college campus? This one predates too, was built in 78. Serves, I'll give it away here.
Oh, I know it. It's the Syracuse, right? It's
bingo. Yep, football and basketball.
What's it called?
Carrier Dome. Used to be the Carrier Dome. Now
no, that's what it's called.
JMA Wireless Dome.
It is the Carrier Dome.
I know.
It's also the Kibbe Dome in
That's true.
In Idaho.
That's really small though. That's really
you got the Kibbe Dome there. But yeah, domes were hot in the streets for a while there. It was like all the rage, like we got to get a dome. And then the other thing that was like really, really hot back that time, because Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Philadelphia, San Diego, multi-purpose stadiums.
Yes, mixed use.
So you had Fulton County Stadium, which was the Falcons and the Braves. You had Riverfront Stadium, which I believe was Cincinnati. That's Reds and Bengals. Three Rivers Stadium, Veterans Stadium, the one that still Jack Murphy.
One that still supports a team in Oakland.
Yeah, the Oakland Alameda Coliseum.
Which I believe was, let's see, was that 70s too?
Yeah, had to be. Had to be.
Oh, no, much worse. 64.
64.
Okay. I feel bad for the poor athletics, man.
What aged worse, the multi-purpose stadiums or the dome? I think the domes gave us a legacy of like, hey, we can play inside. The multi-purpose, like they don't make them anymore.
Well, that
like, guys,
domes,
other than that one we just talked about, the Coliseum, which is now going to be home to nobody.
Should be demolished and built for something else. But yeah, I mean, I think domes are kind of like aesthetically cool, right? Like you're like, oh, it's kind of a dome. It's unique. Like there's nothing aesthetically cool about a mixed-use stadium.
Well, they called them the cookie cutters because there was a even though I don't think a football team ever played in Shea Stadium, but it was like Shea Stadium, Fulton County Stadium, Riverfront, Veterans, Three Rivers. Like they all looked exactly the same. Good time. But anyways, to answer your question, the King Dome was better than the Tacoma Dome, bigger, but for concerts, the King Dome kind of stunk because it was just a big concrete thing. The sound echoed. I only went to
like Tacoma versus like Moda
for
like a dome, like for a concert. What's the difference between like Moda versus like a?
It's been a minute since this is gonna be one of my first Tacoma Dome concerts in a while.
Check back
the difference is more like you get more people in the Tacoma Dome, right? It feels more like a stadium than an arena, but the King Dome was terrible for concerts. I remember Alabama, the band Alabama played after a Mariner game one time, and we stuck around to watch Alabama play little Dixieland Delight, and it was terrible. You couldn't hear it. It was like echoing off. So the Tacoma Dome you could at least hear. So that's where I'm going to be in a week and a half. Shout out Tacoma Dome. All right. All that being said, we've got some stuff we saw on the internet coming up in a handful of minutes, but it is now time for Make or Miss. Here we go.
All right, firing up Make or Miss. New Orleans is cooked without Zion.
Yeah, they're cooked without Zion. Do we know officially? I mean, I'm sure he's like, if he could play Friday, he probably could have came back. The only thing I wonder is like, just like I think they're going to do with Giannis, they're going to be like extra careful with that hamstring. And maybe it was like a twinge, and it's like, we got to go get an MRI, and you're not playing until you get an MRI, and that's why he threw the towel. Maybe he's like, he tried to play, he wanted to play through it, and they're like, no, you're not allowed to. Because remember, there was still that whole thing, was it 2 years ago, where he technically wanted to play and the Pelicans were like, no, well, we're tanking and you're not playing. I guess that wasn't 2 years ago. They stole the Blazers pick 2 years ago. But does that ring a bell? Remember, because he was putting videos on Instagram of him doing like reverse windmill 360s. And it was like, why is he doing that? And it's like, yeah, he wants to play. The Pelicans won't let him because they're afraid he's going to. Like, I wonder if maybe there's a chance they get an MRI and go like, yeah, it was just a tweak. You can play through it. I don't know.
I doubt it.
Hamstrings are tough, especially that dude's hamstrings.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're cooked without him. He looked so good last night.
Well,
he looked like an absolute superstar last night, and it was fun to watch. And then
so here's the thing.
Bink went with the hamstring. And it's also, here's what also isn't good. During the broadcast, was it Kevin Harlan on the broadcast? By the way, he's so good. Kevin Harlan is so good at play-by-play. I think he might be the best right now. But Kevin Harlan, let's go to Allie LaForce. And it's like, Allie LaForce is like, we have nothing. They aren't saying.
Yeah.
Zion's gone. We don't know anything. I wish I had an update, but we don't have one. So we'll see. You seeing an update right now?
No, I was just curious to see if there was anything coming across the screen. But,
I was wondering, like, are you seeing what? Did I miss something? But yeah, but if let's just live in the world where Zion doesn't play, which is likely because it's the NBA. Yeah, they're cooked.
Well, and here's the other thing I look at it. Like,
also, like,
very much.
Domantas Sabonis looked really good last night too. Like the Kings have kind of figured they still don't play a lick of defense, but it's like.
Yeah, very much.
They figured out the one formula, which I have been screaming at the top of my lungs, which is they got tall shooters.
Yeah.
Tall shooters.
Yeah, and looking at the Pelicans, I can't help but think they're like the Blazers a couple years ago, where they're good.
Good enough to be a play-in team,
but not
good
enough to get over the hump. And I'm sorry, like, let's look at their box score. We mentioned it last night. Zion did his part. That's what I expect from Zion. Now, the combined 20 points from C.J. McCollum and Brenden Ingram.
That's a bad night for both. Bad night for both of those guys.
Two guys making a combined $70 million.
By the way, they still had a shot there at the end. They were right there.
And, like, if you're New Orleans, like, you got $60 more million, 2 more years guaranteed on C.J. McCollum. You've got Brenden Ingram and a big extension coming up for him. They've got a roster that's going to get more expensive, Justin, and not really like a ceiling to get over the hump. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing that's giving Blazer fans some solace right now is like, do you realize how good the Blazers would have to be or have these young guys? Like, say they wanted to win right now, right? Like, you have to find players who are better than Nikola Jokic, better than Anthony Edwards, better than Joel Embiid. I mean, just the superstars in this league right now is maybe not the time to win. Right? Maybe you need to.
But I guess if you're New Orleans, though, do you still hold out hope in the back of your mind? Like, if Zion gets healthy, we got one of those guys.
I mean, he is 23. So
he's 23 years old. He's not like, he feels old because he's been kind of shoved down shoved in our face for years and years and years, but he's 23. So I think if you're New Orleans, you're like, well, no, we keep hanging on here because maybe, just maybe, if he does get healthy, he proved he could play through the entire year, unfortunately. And this is going to lead to more load management, right? Which is, hey, Zion played all year, and then, boom, pops a hammy in game 1 of the postseason. What if we had arrested him?
How do you think, in the next couple years, Justin, how do you think CJ's game will age as he gets older? Because CJ's going to be 33 come this next basketball season for the Pelicans. And like I said, got 2 more guaranteed years at big money. Will he be effective at 35 years old?
All right, really dumb basketball analogy coming, all right? Keep in mind, I said dumb, but doesn't he dribble too much?
He does dribble a lot.
He dribbles a lot. And it was fine earlier in his career, but
Why didn't
you talk about how your game ages. Steph Curry's game is going to age because he moves without the ball and he moves
like
off
nobody
of screens.
Else.
And he's a spot-up shooter, and he can create his spot better than anybody else in the game. He doesn't shoot off the dribble. CJ dribbles too much. Like, usually those guys you can become and stay a spot-up shooter for years and years and years, right? You just park yourself. Like, J.J. Redick probably tacked on 5 years at the end of his career because he's like, I'm going to stand right there when the defense collapses, kicks it out to me, and I'm going to knock it down at about 40%. I don't need to dribble. I don't need to create a shot. I don't need to do running teardrops in the lane. I'm just going to go right there.
How long did Kyle Korver hang in the league?
Kyle Korver, another great example.
That dude was a sniper from deep, man. I love me some Kyle Korver.
So talking about how CJ's game is going to age, right? Can he get to a point, or will a team put him in a position where it's like, no, you sit in that spot. You don't dribble to the lane. You sit in that spot, and you become a spot-up shooter.
And that was kind of the thing with CJ. That's why I asked the question is like, Dame, we knew what Dame was, but that was always the problem is like Portland for what they needed at the time. Now, this is just Portland needed CJ to be more like a Klay Thompson than a CJ McCollum, right? Klay Thompson, obviously not, didn't show his prowess last night. But, Justin, that's the major difference between Klay and CJ is Klay's a little bit taller, and he doesn't need to dribble. Klay doesn't dribble.
Well, and there's also a very, very, very big element that I never bring up, but I know it's important. Klay plays defense.
I was going to say taller. That kind of was the nice way of saying that.
He plays defense.
More athletic, yeah.
CJ is a defensive liability. And even like JJ Redick could play defense too. And like, I don't know about Kyle Korver, but that's the reason why they call them 3-and-D guys. And CJ is a 3-and-D guy. The D, unfortunately, means dribble, not defense.
Well, and hence why he's playing point guard, right? Where he should have, CJ, for what it's worth.
But I mean, I think he's going to. It's not like I'm writing C.J. McCollum off.
No.
Maybe he goes off for 40-some Friday night. Who knows? But, like, you asked how I think his game's going to age. He's going to have to stop dribbling.
But that's not like Dame. You could look back and be like, okay, maybe Portland. Do you think Portland regrets any part of the CJ deal? Because I don't. At this moment, it's like I think it worked out best for all sides at the time. And, Dame to be determined. But, like, the reality of it was, even if they had Dame and CJ now, it wouldn't have led to a championship. They wouldn't have got their third star that was going to change everything. You know what I mean?
I know.
It sucks to say, but
I know. We all kind of knew it. We kind of knew it the whole time.
That's like that thing you don't want to believe it's true, but
yeah, I know.
It is. All right, let's go ahead and move along and make or miss and stick with this because we didn't get to this yesterday. Damian Lillard is an interesting omission from the Olympic roster, and I'm sure you saw Kawhi Leonard snags the last spot as of yesterday.
All right, I don't want to dive too much into because I believe while you are a public figure, I don't want to talk about somebody else's family. But do you think Dame even put his name in the discussion because of everything that's happened this year? He's moved from Milwaukee. He's away from his family. He's talked about how it's kind of like, do you then want to go to Paris for a month? Now, maybe if family goes with, I don't know. But if I had to guess, like, what's the real reason why Dame's not on the Olympic team? I would imagine he wants to get back to his normal life in the summer. And I don't know if he wants to go to Paris for 2 weeks for the games, 2-3 weeks of training camp, probably in Vegas, and you're going to be away from your family more than you already are. I think it's more that than maybe not having him on the roster. Or I know he was hurt. He didn't play very well last time, right? He didn't play a lot in Tokyo. No,
Dame. Excuse me. Yeah. I mean,
he didn't play very well.
He had that core injury.
That's what I'm saying. I know he was hurt, but he didn't play very well.
No, I mean, he really.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, I think he wants to get back here. I think he wants to be around his family and get the heck up out of Milwaukee and not go to Paris.
So you think it could be, and going back to the point yesterday, and we'll close on this, Justin, do you think that if they are out quickly, there could be a divorce in Milwaukee?
Nah, too much money. Too much money with Dame. And with, what Pound said this yesterday. You have to give this Doc Rivers half a year, Giannis hurt, Dame first year there. I do not see a one-and-done scenario. I think that's Stephen A. Smith trying to get Dame to the New York Knicks. That's what he's always been doing.
Did they jump the gun and should have never fired Budenholzer? Who got them a championship?
That might be something to think of. But again, they have yet to play a postseason game. We're already writing them off. Let's let them get eliminated before we start writing them off. All right, coming up, stuff we saw on the internet. New ballpark food around Major League Baseball. Would Brenden try it? We play that game next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, hey, let's wrap up our number 2. It's a segment we have called Stuff We Saw on the Internet. It doesn't have an intro. It's not a whole deal. It's just we live on the internet, and every once in a while I see some things, and, because we leave the show, and, like, my wife works a normal job. Most of my friends work normal jobs. Kind of we're done really early, and, like, I see all kinds of stuff on the internet, and I got nobody to talk to about it. So we've kind of sprinkled it in a couple of times on the show of stuff we saw on the internet, and this one, it is awesome. Very excited because, as I've mentioned before, being at the ballpark is a special place. I am not a day-to-day viewer of Major League Baseball. I am not a, grind it out 162 games. I will pay attention to my team, but going to the ballpark in the summer is one of my favorite things to do in all of sports. It is a simple but yet such satisfying viewing experience. Brendan's going to be going up to T-Mobile Park later on this summer. You're going to watch old Adley Rutschman and the Baltimore Orioles come to town. Probably part of a big caravan from Sherwood up I-5, past the Tacoma Dome, by the way, to Safeco Field. What will be on the menu at T-Mobile Park? Still Safeco to me. What will be on the menu? Who knows? But Major League Baseball parks all across this great country have now unveiled new ballpark items, and we have you said picky was a bad way to describe it, so I don't want to say that anymore. I want to try to be more positive than negative, but Brenden is very specific and also very adamant of what he will and will not eat. Doesn't feel like it, not going to try it. So let's play Would Brenden Try It? Let's start with the Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore Orioles, I think, famous for their soft-shell crab. I know you're a seafood guy, but This is not that. This is the warehouse dog. So, warehouse dog sounds awesome, by the way. 12-inch foot-long hot dog. Hey, now. Horseradish-infused brick sauce. Don't know what brick sauce is, but horseradish, I'm in. Pit beef queso fondito. Pickled pico de gallo, and onions on a pretzel bun. Brenden, would you eat this?
I'd try it for sure.
Okay.
I like hot dogs. Not sure.
I thought the horseradish might scare you off a little bit.
Not sure about all the toppings, but I like a good dog enough to where I'm like, yeah, I'd try it for sure.
And would you, like, just for one bite, just go like, I'm going to try it as it is?
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, totally open with this. You can put things on a hot dog and entice me.
Weird thing that bugs your boy over here. I feel like you should eat something as is. Somebody worked hard to create it as it is, and I feel like you should eat it as is.
Is it worse to pick something off after it's arrived, or ask the waiter to not put it on there?
I think it's more polite to pick it off.
But you just did not do that.
But I don't like pickles. I would take a bite and just be like, pickle's not working for me. I'm gonna throw them off.
So, like, when I get, like, this
weekend. But I would take an initial bite.
Yeah, like this weekend I got a chicken sandwich and no tomato. I'm not a big fan of tomato. If tomato was on there, probably would have ruined the sandwich. Would I have picked it off myself? Sure, but...
But then, as my wife says, it leaves remnants.
Sure.
All right, here we go. I bet you're down with this. Campfire milkshake at Chicago. By the way, the Chicago White Sox are terrible.
Jerry Reinsdorf again.
They are all-time terrible baseball, like being compared to teams back in the teens.
Oh,
anyways, but they are going to try to bribe you with the Campfire milkshake. 16 ounces of milkshake topped with graham crackers, marshmallows, and pieces of chocolate. The marshmallow, I think the Campfire part of it is with a brulee torch on top. I love a good milkshake. Now, I'm not really a sweets guy at the ballpark, but I'd rather get another hot dog. But if this was put in front of me, I'd try it. Would you try the Campfire milkshake?
I'd crush this.
Yeah, you got the sweet tooth. You're into it. This one might. I don't know. I don't know where you're going. The Mets at Citi Field. Rainbow Cookie Egg Roll. It contains rainbow cookie, raspberry jam, chocolate syrup, rolled in egg roll paper, deep fried. so you get the sweet and I think a little bit of the savory there. It looks awesome to me. It feels very county fair, which you know I love a county fair. Feels very county fair to me. Brenden, would you try the rainbow cookie egg roll?
I'm a little skeptical, but I'd try it.
I
Yeah, I mean, this is odd, but I would try it for sure.
Okay. You are going up to Seattle this summer.
Hopefully. Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
T-Mobile Park has unveiled the Mitch Witch, inspired by Mitch Haniger the double Mitch Witch, excuse me, and Mitch Garver and Mitch Haniger. The Mitch Haniger part contains grilled chicken breast. Oh, that's boring. Marinated tomatoes. Brendan's already out, I think. Bacon, Havarti cheese, and a fried avocado wedge. While the Mitch Garver side has pulled pork, sliced Black Forest ham, Swiss cheese Dijonnaise, and sliced pickles. Would you try either or of the double Mitch Witch?
If you let me remove the tomatoes, I will try them both, Justin. This sounds really good. If you're gonna make me with the tomatoes, I would try it, but I would not necessarily be happy.
I guess you put cheese and bacon on grilled chicken breast. I think it's still okay, but come on, Haniger. Arizona Diamondbacks. This one isn't really described, but apple pie chimichanga. Yeah,
all in.
You a funnel cake guy?
Sure am.
Phillies loaded funnel cake fry sundae.
And that looks insanely good.
The Boston Red Sox have Irish nachos, which I believe are like regular nachos, but there appears to be some kind of cured meat on there, and they're with crisp-cut fries instead of tortilla chips. I'm in on these.
Okay, yeah, I'd try them. Wow, the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know about this one, Justin.
Okay. Renegade hot dog. 12-inch foot-long hot dog. This is Pittsburgh. Pot roast. Oh, pot roast is so good. Mini pierogies, caramelized onions, and pickle slices will be sold only in Section 133, but would you, without any mixing and matching, would you try the Renegade hot dog?
I'm out. This is the first one I'm not going to try, Justin.
What is it? Is it the pot roast?
Pot roast, and I don't really know what pierogies are.
They're like meat pies.
Okay, yeah, definitely out. A lot of meat on this.
They're like little meat pies. Pierogies
out.
are so good.
I'm out.
Oh, pierogies are the best.
I'm out. We found it. Took me to Pittsburgh to
All
get
right,
me out.
we got to hustle through these last ones. Kansas City Royals, the back to blue burger. It looks like just a loaded up hamburger with a bun that has been food colored blue. I don't get it.
It'd be okay, I guess.
It looks like I guess, there's blue cheese on there too. You in or out on blue cheese?
I like ranch more, so I'd be out on blue cheese.
Right. But no, blue cheese crumbles, though. Not even the dressing. Blue cheese crumbles.
I think I'm out.
All right. Yankees have got a bunch of milkshakes. Meatball garlic knot sliders.
Those sound pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. The Marlins, we talked about this the other day, all-you-can-eat section in Miami. Now, here we go, 20 seconds. The four-bagger from my beloved Atlanta Braves. It's 4 burgers, 1 pound of barbecue biscuit, Reaper pepper mayonnaise. That's hot, but sounds awesome. Jalapenos, cheese, and a beer-battered onion ring. Brenden, would you try?
I couldn't do it. It's the best-looking one, though.
No, I would hammer it. All right, there you go. There's new ballpark food. Hour 3 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA play in action last night. The Los Angeles Lakers are headed back to the playoffs as they will be the number 7 seed after taking down the New Orleans Pelicans 110-106. Zion Williamson had 40 points before leaving the game with 3 minutes remaining with a hamstring injury up in the air as to whether or not he will be able to play on Friday, as the Pelicans will play Sacramento for a chance to take on the number 1 seed Oklahoma City Thunder. Kings knocked out the Golden State Warriors last night, 118-94. Play-in action continues tonight, though, in the East as 76ers and the Heat look to have the number 7 seed to take on the New York Knicks. Bulls, Hawks face elimination and try to play their way into the postseason. Tyson Alger is going to be joining us in approximately 20 minutes, an RCM mailbag, and we have leaked documents from the College Football Super League. Who's in? Who's out? We'll talk about it next. 620 Rip City Radio. You know, the beauty of doing a show each and every day is something only has to be relevant today. And I know there's a lot of negative Nellies out there who might be like, Justin, your Super League thing is never going to happen. I don't care. We got news about it today. And so we're going to talk about it today. And if by tomorrow word comes down that it's never going to happen, well, guess what? We'll find something else to talk about tomorrow. But I can dream, can't I? Can't I dream that my beloved college football that is being ripped to shreds by a deadly combination of ignorance, recklessness, and greed? Because the people who are in charge are not the people who know anything about sports, talking about the university presidents. The other people who control all the power, yeah, those are the TV network executives. They're the reckless ones, and every one of them is lining their fat cat pockets. Ignorance, recklessness, and greed. A perfect storm that is hovering above beloved college football, being held off by fandom, which is the perfect storm umbrella. So I want to dream about a potential Super League. And then I saw this on the X app yesterday. There is an 11-slide confidential pitch deck. Have you heard of pitch deck? Is this like PowerPoint? It's like a different version.
Can't say I've heard of it before.
I'm assuming it's like PowerPoint. But a pitch deck presentation that the College Sports Tomorrow, the CST, led by Gordon Gee, Chancellor of Syracuse, he's at West Virginia, Chancellor of Syracuse, handful of other people. Turnkey ZRG, that's that headhunting firm. So they got somebody got their hands on, I think Sportico. Going to give them credit. Got their hands on some of these confidential slides. Proposed Super League divisions, right? Because the proposal for the Super League, real quick overview, is to take 80 college football teams, put them into 8 10-team divisions. If it sounds an awful lot like college football in 1994, or 1992, I should say, it's exactly what it is. There's some minor tweaks here or there when you see some of these divisions, but if you want to know like what they're proposing, they're like, we'll pay the players, but can we just go back to 1992, please? Because these 16-team leagues or divisions or conferences, it's getting out of 20, 18, like that's a lot of teams in a conference. So the Super League would consist of 8 divisions, 7 of which are protected. Protected divisions mean no matter what happens, no matter how bad your football team is, you are always going to be in the Super League. 70 of the teams are in the Super League. 10, well, we're going to evaluate on a year-to-year basis. The Western Division. Stop me if this sounds familiar. According to the Super League, the Western Division would be Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Stanford, Oregon, Oregon State, UCLA, USC, Washington, Washington State. Wow, that looks a lot like the Pac-10, doesn't it? That looks incredibly familiar to the Pac-10. That's odd. Didn't somebody say that ultimately we're going to go full circle back? Now, again, this is a proposed thing that I very much like. It's I think a very compromise of old school people like me, grumpy old men like me going like, you're ruining it. And new school people going like, you've been exploiting these student athletes for all these years. Nice little compromise. Let's shake some hands. Southwest Division, Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, TCU, SMU, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Houston, Baylor, and Arkansas. Well, that looks a lot like the Southwest Conference, Brenden. Doesn't now? Oklahoma was always a Big 8 team, but you keep in mind the Oklahoma State rivalry, and it's like, oh, weird. All the teams from Texas and Oklahoma, and then we'll throw in the border state of Arkansas, which was in the Southwest Conference for years and years and years. The Plains Division. BYU, Colorado, Iowa, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Utah, Wisconsin. Now, that's a mishmash of some old school Big 8 teams, some Big 10 teams. I don't know what they were thinking there. Because you've also got the Midwest. The Midwest is Cincinnati, Illinois, Indiana, Louisville, Michigan, Michigan State, Missouri, Northwestern, Ohio State, Purdue. I think if I were mixing and mashing, Wisconsin goes back into the Midwest because that's the old school Big 10. Take Missouri out, put Missouri in the Plains Division, right? Because the Big 8, like just go back to the old school. Anyways. Northeast, Boston College, Maryland, Notre Dame, Penn State, Pitt, Rutgers, Syracuse, Virginia, Virginia Tech, West Virginia. This one's one of my favorites. Southeast, Clemson, Duke, Florida, Florida State, Miami, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, UCF, Wake Forest. I know Clemson is technically an SEC team, but that looks an awful lot, and Florida, but that looks an awful lot like the ACC to me without Syracuse and Virginia. And then you have the South Division, which is old school SEC, add in Georgia Tech. Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Kentucky, Georgia Tech, Georgia, Auburn, Alabama. So there we go. What is old is new. So just as I'm getting excited about this, Brenden, and I'm like thinking, maybe one day, the Big Ten and the SEC is going to look around and go like, this is good for everybody. It may not be good for us, but it's good for everybody. Let's do the greater, which is not going to happen. Well, I found some other things with regard to the Super League in terms of rules, and that just made me depressed, and I'll tell you why. Because I understand the thought process that the SEC and the Big Ten is like, well, we control all this anyways. ACC is hanging on by a thread. Sorry, Big 12, you're cool, but you're not as cool. Your secondary invite, you learn about that when you have a wedding. Big 12, you're all right, you're kind of invited, but not really. Then I saw what they proposed for the transfer rules. Are you ready for the proposal? It's going to get a little wordy here, but I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can. Teams will be allowed 85 roster spots each year, but they only get a maximum of 70 scholarship spots. All right. Instantly, big money schools are like, no. We pay for all the players.
15 scholarships. You know how much that is?
Well, there's going to be 15 essentially walk-ons on every team. 15 scholarship players gone.
No.
Oh, yeah. All right.
No.
Oregon, Washington, USC, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama. They're all out. In one sentence, you've eliminated probably, I don't know, a third of the teams. We're going to voluntarily give up 15 spots of. And college football coaches are nuts. They already believe that they probably need 15 more to be able to compete, let alone the 85 that they already get. So, yeah. 70 scholarship spots. You ready for this one? 50 of those spots would have to go to players who are recruited by the program directly out of high school. So now you've limited transfer portal to 20 scholarships and 35 total. So now you're affecting a little bit of recruiting, and now you got to go back. Now, I think some of the coaches might like that. They're like, all right, yeah, get us back to out of high school. Athletes would be allowed to transfer twice within a 5-year eligibility window. So players are eligible for 5 years.
That's good.
You get 2 transfers. Each year, there would be 2 transfer portal windows, an open one in February. And I don't know how you work that with the academic calendar. Good luck with that, because they're still going to class, I think. And a supplemental one in March. Schools would only be able to sign a maximum of 10 players in each transfer portal window. So max, you get 20 transfers. Now's where it gets real tricky. Schools that sign athletes during the February window would have to make a player transfer payment to those athletes' former schools. It's not unlike how the NFL has compensatory draft picks, reimbursing them for aggregate broadcast NIL payments, transferring it. So you got to pay for your transfers. So I think we might have gotten back Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Washington. We might have gotten them back. But as soon as I saw, oh, yeah, we're going to take away 15 scholarships, and I'm like, great. Good proposal, guys. It was fun while it lasted. That's never going to happen.
It can always be tweaked and modified, right?
I think so. If you are NBC or Fox, do you want 80 teams in college football? Or do you think those two entities, ESPN and Fox and NBC, who are kind of the big players right now, do you think they kind of like the fact, even though it's not good for college football, that it's down to the SEC and the Big Ten? And that essentially the 36, I think, that is in two of the conferences are on top, and they're in charge of all 36. Much like, I don't know, a pro league. I love this. I love the idea of this. I don't know if TV execs are like, 80? What if we whittle it down to, like, I don't know, the top 34? Which is ultimately going to be coming up. Coming up on our big show, Tyson Alger, who is a friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, joins us next on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it is Wednesday. It is nearly 20 after 8, which means it's time to check in with our good friend. That's right, from the I-5 corridor. He is the founder. He is the president. He is the CEO. He is the head writer. He is the lead roller hockey Portland historian at the I-5 corridor, and he is a friend of our program. His name is Tyson Alger, back on the big show. Tyson, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Finding that roller hockey clip was tough for me, though, because Portland looks pretty cool 30 years ago, man. I know that was like during your teenage years.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that was pretty formative.
Well, they said in the show Portlandia, which obviously we all around here have kind of mixed thoughts on Portlandia, but the dream of the 90s is alive in Portland. And then I would challenge that the newbies, the Johnny-come-latelys, who were not around in the 90s, like, I don't know if you are realizing the dream that we had back then, because back then we wanted to watch Portland wrestling. We wanted to see Bruiser Brian Cox, a.k.a. Rage Man, at the roller hockey rink, which I believe that's Veterans Memorial Coliseum, which turned into a roller hockey rink, which is awesome. And can I tell you a little secret about myself, Tyson? I know we have joked, good-natured ribbon, given guff to one another about your love of hockey and how it's not quite my thing. There was a time, your guy, me, I wanted to be a roller hockey player so bad. It was Mighty Ducks were really big. I was, for Winston, Oregon standards, really good at rollerblading. And boy, I had a dream. I had a dream of being a roller hockey star. Little did I know by 1997 it would be out. We're done. No more roller hockey.
That is the one of the least surprising things I think I've ever heard. Because it was cool, it was hip. You could be one of those people doing like the backwards crossovers on the Santa Monica Pier for like practice. Yeah. What a dream. Unfortunately, that league just didn't have the juice to survive the next 30 years.
It's such a funny thing to try to explain to people that, no, there was a 2-year run where if you could rollerblade, your social status was high. And boy, we invested some money into those rollerblades, and it was a gravy train on biscuit wheels, Tyson. It was never going to, and then all of a sudden by about 1997, everybody's, yeah, we don't want to do that anymore. That's dumb. As a matter of fact, there came other names associated with rollerblading that I cannot utter on the radio that I'm probably ashamed that I uttered in real life. But yeah, just poof, vanished, gone. And here I am with this skill that I still believe I could strap the blades on to this day, Tyson. Maybe do a couple of backwards crossovers. I don't know. But in my heart, I believe it. And I have now this skill that has not been relevant since 1997.
Our whole group of hockey players during the pandemic, we were like, all right, let's get rollerblades. Like, this will be naturally easy. And I think we all skated together like twice on them and realized that like this is a lot harder than we remember. Like, trying to actually stop or like slow down or like turn, like when you fall in roller, gravity just kind of does its thing and you just kind of stick, on ice. It's graceful. You can glide.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hurts a little bit more in roller.
I believe that's called the road rash, is what they don't have that on ice. Yeah, also, one last thing on rollerblading, which I did, by the way, plan on talking about because I saw that clip and I was like, yep, that is right in my wheelhouse. Again, I grew up in a very small town in Southern Oregon. Our drive to Lane County Ice, which I'm sure you have been at covering Oregon club hockey, but Lane County Ice was the closest ice rink. So I grew up rollerblading, and like I said, I was pretty good. We did at the Parkland Skate Center, right? I was top 3 in the races and everything else. Then I strapped on some rental ice skates at Lane County Ice and realized it's not the same, not even close to the same.
Yeah. It's kind of like taking the training wheels off, Justin, and you really kind of find like who the true athletes are.
Exactly right.
This isn't something that I've wanted to like throw around or brag about or like seek celebrity in, but like I'm pretty good at this, Justin, and I feel like there should be a little bit more of a respect within this conversation moving forward, just because I am one of the few, the proud, the hockey players.
That is very true. So much so. Look, I did not have a hockey nickname in high school, and one of us on this conversation did documented in the paper in Alaska a nickname. I believe Mr. Clutch, I believe is what your nickname was.
Yeah, the thing is in those tight situations when the adrenaline gets going and other people clam up. Some people just really break through. That's when they find their zone, and that's the tough thing about analytics is you can't measure heart. And let me tell you what, Justin, got a big one over here.
Through the roof. All right, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we transitioned from rollerblading to food because you posted Jackson Powers Johnson, former offensive lineman at the University of Oregon. He now he's got his own burger in Eugene. I'm gonna throw out. We talked about ballpark food earlier. The Big Jack's Burger, for those wondering what exactly it is, here we go. It is a double Angus burger topped with 2 slices of American cheese. I'm on board. 2 strips of bacon. Here we go. A scoop of mac and cheese. All right, now we're getting a little greedy. Smoked pulled pork on top of that. Drizzle of barbecue sauce, and then, if that wasn't enough, topped with homemade queso. Of course, served on a toasted brioche bun. Tyson, thoughts on the Big Jack's Burger in Eugene, Jackson Powers Johnson? Feels a bit too much. Feels a bit much.
I feel like that's the burger you eat when you come in as a freshman and you're like at like 260 and they're like, yeah, we need to get you at least up to like 295. Because that's like even in my prime days, I don't know if I could eat that. Like that's so much. Like I feel like you could space that out for an entire week. Just take a little bit of a slice, like a real dense cheesecake. The mac and cheese, I think the mac and cheese doubled up with the queso, I think is just a little bit. That's just headline grabbing. We're going for clicks there. Like that's just a little. It's a little repetitive, Jackson. Come on, man.
Well, and again, I am a fan of protein. I have a freezer full of a quarter cow that I purchased not that long ago. But the burger and then, like you mentioned, the mac and cheese plus queso is a bit redundant. Double burger and then barbecue pulled pork on there. Again, now we're mixing and matching too much.
I mean, the nice thing about being a projected first or second round pick is, you can have a house with many bathrooms
Very true.
And really, really, really top of the line plumbing. But unfortunately, here at the corridor office, we're going to stay away from the Big Jack's Burger, I think.
I'm definitely staying away from the Big Jack's Burger. We talked about this in the second hour. There's a lot of new menu items at ballparks across Major League Baseball. So I'm curious. You've been to a ballpark or two. You've also been to a hospitality room or two. Favorite ballpark food? Beyond just the basic, right? Which is a good hot dog with a proper amount of toppings. What's your favorite ballpark food? One that you still think about to this day?
The thing is I get kind of stressed out when I go to a ballpark and they have like a lot of, you'll see some of the promotions of like, here's all the new food options we have. Yeah. And I kind of get the feeling of somebody in Portland on like the first sunny day. It's you almost get overwhelmed. And then so you just kind of like choose what you know. And so every time I go to T-Mobile, I always just get a Kid Valley burger and a chocolate shake. And I never stray from that. Like, even though I've seen like Din Tai Fung or you can get this or that or like all those fancy things, I'm not a fancy thing at the ballpark type of guy. Like I get the exact same thing every time. That's probably not a great answer. Like, no, I haven't done like the 3-foot hot dog somewhere. I haven't done like the equivalent of like the Big Jack's Burger where they pile on like a billion things. Like, I just like my burger and my shake.
Yeah, I'm a hot dog guy at the ballpark. But again, I went to last summer. Went to Yankee Stadium. I was like, you know what? I'm at Yankee Stadium. Let me get a foot long Nathan's hot dog. It was a little bit too much. Didn't need the foot long. Regular hot dog would have done just fine. But yeah, I am a hot dog. I have had Edgar's nachos at the Cantina in left field, which has got, I believe, Goat in there. Went for it, and I'm like, not too shabby, Edgar. Hall of Fame worthy.
Look, man, I'm a big Edgar fan. Like, he's probably my second favorite player of all time. He can't be throwing Goat in there. Look, we got him into the Hall of Fame. Edgar Martinez is a Hall of Famer. We don't have to like stay all the way on that end of the diving board. Like, he was a designated hitter, you know.
Also, I've had an Ichiro before. Ichiro.
Are you a sweets at the ballpark?
No.
Like, you get like your little baseball hats and get filled with ice cream and.
I don't want to blame it on this, but when I was a child, probably much like you, Tyson, I was promised that Dippin' Dots were the ice cream of the future. Turns out they weren't. The future came. I'm here. It's 2024. Dippin' Dots still in our lives, but I mean, I don't go to the store and see Dippin' Dots. It was replaced Dairy, the premier ice cream. I don't see that happening at the Safeway or the Fred Meyer. So maybe it's my frustration that Dippin' Dots really they never delivered on their promise to be the ice cream of the future.
I actually respect that they're taking their time. You know, we've gotten everything else. Like, I'm talking to you in a little 6-inch computer attached to my head right now. You know, we get sports on demand. You know, Dippin' Dots, you take your time. Like, I believe the process. I trust the organization. The future's not here yet, and that's okay.
Dippin' Dots are playing the long game. You're exactly right, because basically, other than hoverboards, everything from Back to the Future 2 happened. Right, the Cubs won the World Series. We have FaceTime, right? So we can, like, the future is here. We communicate to multiple. We learned that about it in Zoom. Remember, like he was talking to like 4 different people, and it's like we did that in the pandemic with Zoom. Back to the Future 2 came true. I'm pretty sure Elon Musk is working on flying cars somewhere. But yeah, Dippin' Dots still like, we're more of a 2030s kind of future.
I mean, like, you know, Nike even went out there and made like the self-lacing shoes, and like those were kind of a bomb. So I trust the geniuses at Dippin' Dots to release it when it's ready. You know, of all those companies, I think Dippin' Dots is best geared for 2020. I don't know.
I don't even think 2020s. I think we're looking 2030s and beyond, Tyson.
Yeah.
All right, let's while we have just a few minutes, let's actually maybe talk about some relevant sports topic on this particular segment. I don't know. We're having a good time, right? This is kind of a big deal in a weird time, though, and Oregon basketball, which we talked about, the run in March, I think very much cooled the seat of Dana Altman, which I don't know how hot it actually got, but the temperature was definitely getting to a particular point. And then Oregon goes on their run. They win the Pac-12 tournament. They win in the first round because that's what Dana Altman does. They're a double overtime loss away from the Sweet 16. And then, obviously, the tournament goes on, and it kind of quiet news, but for those that maybe didn't understand the impact that Coach Stubblefield had on Oregon recruiting in what is kind of the glory years of the Dana Altman. Then he went off and got his own job. Now that Tony Stubblefield coming back to Oregon basketball, this seems pretty significant, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, even just the fact that like Stubblefield kind of like re-buys into this organization. Just, you know, if I know he's not necessarily coming off the biggest position of strength, having no longer being a head coach, but like I don't necessarily think that he would necessarily just jump to an organization where if he thought they kind of had a short leash. But you know, Stubblefield, especially during like Dana's best years, he was always his right hand guy. Like those two were in sync, especially like in terms of recruiting players that like worked for Altman. Like I think that's, you know, you can actually kind of see a pretty direct drop off from like Dana's better teams to when things started kind of bottoming out a bit, and that's kind of when Tony left. So, you know, we'll see whether getting the band back together is exactly like the formula you need as we continue to move into a new era of college athletics. Like maybe they all have one last ride, but I think it is kind of a pretty bold move by Altman and them, though, too, to just say, like, we're just going to keep going with what has worked in the past. And obviously, Stubblefield was very effective for the university, but it'll be fascinating to see how that works as we move into the Big Ten era of hoops.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I know you guys had Masters coverage on the I-5 corridor. While we have just talking about food menus and everything else, where are you on pimento cheese? Pimento cheese sandwich. Is that like a you gotta have one if you're there, or a little bit overrated?
I think it's a you got to have one when you're there because one of my subscribers, Kevin, he had a full pass to the Masters this week, so he was sending us audio diaries, and part of his assignment was trying to eat the entire menu, which I think you can do for just $65.
I think so.
Everything's pretty affordably priced, and I think that more than anything is what makes the sandwiches good because. Feeling inspired, like knowing I had a man on the course. I went to the store. I bought some pimento cheese. I bought some white bread, and it was just it was fine. Well, I think the bread was a little thick and stale, but I think if you're getting them for $2 and you're at the Masters and you have a little liquid in you as well, I think I could probably eat 13 of those.
Well, it's kind of the opposite of what you talked about when going to the baseball park, right? Because you go to the baseball park and you get overwhelmed by options. And one of the reasons you get overwhelmed is because if you make the wrong choice, you're out $15. And you got to go find something else to eat. So tack on another $15. I think the fact that it's $1.50, you're like, yeah, I can try the pimento cheese. If I don't like it, I mean, I'm out 6 quarters. It costs more to put air in my tires. You know what I mean?
And what I heard is the pro move is taking the chicken sandwich and the pimento cheese, and for $4 you turn in a Frankenstein creation that's pretty darn good.
I can only hope to one day have the opportunity to put that chicken sandwich with that pimento cheese and spend $4 to do so. I think you're right, though. It is one of those, you've got to be there on the grounds. Much like I always attribute it to a corn dog. Tyson, I love a county fair, and if I go to a county fair, I'm gonna have a corn dog. But if I were to go and if I told you, hey, I'm gonna have 2 corn dogs for lunch today, you would probably be like, hey, Justin, something's going on. You need to talk about it. But at a county fair, it seems perfectly fine.
Like, man, we're stopping by Subway. Like, you really just want to go to Safeway and get 2 corn dogs?
2 corn dogs. You know what? They wouldn't sell them if people weren't buying them, Tyson.
We're having a discussion amongst the friends base there to just make sure the morning show is still what's best for you.
Tyson Alger, you can follow him on Twitter at Tyson Alger. You need to be subscribed to the I-5 corridor. What do we got coming down the corridor in the next coming days and weeks, Tyson?
Yeah, so we're going to have now that we've passed the midway point of spring football, we're kind of going to dive into what we were expecting versus what we've actually learned. It's kind of getting pretty hectic this week with the transfer portal opening back up. So expect nothing that we write to have any lasting impact because they'll all be gone next week. And then I got a podcast coming up, posting later this afternoon. So.
There we go. I-5 Corridor Traffic Report podcast coming up later on. So check that out. Hey, Tyson, thanks so much. Have a terrific day. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
Hey, thanks, Justin.
There you go. Tyson Alger from the I-5 Corridor. We have got an RCM mailbag coming up to wrap up the big show. But before we do, I do once again want to tell you about another great idea. How about calling DeBella for roofing, windows, siding, bath renovations, all that stuff, right? You might be saving money at the Masters eating $1.50 sandwiches. But how about you just don't even have to go to the Masters to save some money? Put some solar shingles on your roof. Because if you do that, you could potentially pay for your brand new roof with savings to your energy bill plus federal and state incentives. Going with solar is economical and good for the environment. Contact DeBella for all the details about updating your roof. Plus, their estimates are free. They're scheduled on a time that is convenient for you, and they have an amazing financing opportunity. That's right. No payments until 2025 on approved credit. 15,000 plus 5-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. Award-winning customer service. receiving accolades from Angie's List and Home Advisor. Plus, they've been featured with the big boys. Better Homes and Garden, you ever heard of that? HGTV, watched that last night. DeBella's been featured on both of those. So contact DeBella today for a free, no obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, bath projects. Proud supporter of Operation Homefront, the Oregon experts, DeBella. All right, time to wrap up the big show. Before we get to the RCM mailbag, we didn't get Brendan's response because an hour ago we went through some of the new ballpark food, and it was would Brenden eat it? Big Jack's Burger. Double burger, American cheese, bacon, mac and cheese, pulled pork, barbecue sauce, queso, all on the Big Jack's Burger, taking away, obviously, your side of the rivalry and the fact that this is a burger named after an Oregon offensive lineman. Would you try it?
I would try it.
You'd
Yeah,
try it.
for sure.
You seemingly like all of those things. I don't know if we like all of those things maybe in one.
Yeah, I'd try it, though. That's the thing is, like, if it's good enough and someone else is making it and it's out to eat, I will try it as long as it's not, like there's a few things that are like tuna fish, not going to happen. Meatloaf, not going to happen.
Have you, okay, I know your feelings on tuna. We have had, that is
Sure.
well documented on this show, and I'm not. Have you had meatloaf and decided you didn't like it, or just you took one look at it and said that ain't for me? Because meatloaf.
That's a great question. I want to.
Because if you like hamburger, I don't know why you wouldn't like meat. It's just like a big hamburger.
So that's the thing is I really. So that's the key is like I'm very particular with
Sometimes
where I
with
like
some
my
gravy on
hamburgers,
top.
right? So like I won't eat a hamburger at home. Has to be cooked.
Well,
like,
if you went to like a diner and like a special tonight is meatloaf with gravy.
never. Like for me, I don't know why meat should be served in the form of a loaf.
Well, I mean, it's served in a form of anything, right? Why is it in the form of a patty? It's just what it is.
Because it's meant to have a bun and other toppings to kind of.
Well, you put
just
it in
too
a
much
loaf,
meat. That's
and
how I look.
you don't just dive into the loaf; you slice it. You know,
Like I don't know,
Anyways.
a loaf is supposed to be bread, man. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, that's my
why
thoughts
is
there.
anything formed into anything? I
This
don't
is
know.
true. This is true.
I'm weird when it comes to like burgers and no, I wouldn't say I'm weird. My preference is like if you're gonna give me a burger, I want to like taste the burger. I don't want extra stuff on it that's going to take like I go to McDonald's, I get quarter pounder with cheese because I want a burger. I don't want bacon, all that stuff. I just want the burger. Same thing with like pizza. Very rarely will I go above 2 toppings. You start getting above 2 top. Now you're trying to mask something. Now you're trying to pull the wool over my eyes.
Yeah, like for example, like I want to say, and I don't think this is that much of a stretch. Like in the last 4 months, I've probably had 1 burger,
Mm.
and it was last weekend at In-N-Out.
Would you go with double?
Animal style.
Animal style.
Animal style fries. That was a heavy day.
That is a heavy
Heavy
day.
day.
That's
But
the
yeah,
I've never had the animal style.
Oh,
I don't.
yeah, it's the way to because then they fry.
Did you go to
them.
the one in Kaiser?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
stood in that line, huh?
It was so we went the long way coming home from Spirit,
Yeah.
and actually just walked right on in. No wait.
No, wait, but the drive.
If you walk in, that's the way to do it. The drive-through,
There
be
ain't
ready
no
to sit for
chance.
30 minutes.
All
Yeah.
right, let's get to the RCM mailbag.
All right, Justin, firing up the mailbag today. Who do you think created breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and why?
John Kellogg, I believe.
Because I had this argument recently with a family member who's like, no, you can't have sub sandwiches in the evening. That's a lunch food.
Oh.
And then I also have been like, I'm someone who's like, French toast for dinner? Heck yeah, why not, man? Breakfast, there's no rules. And as someone has told me, that's crazy. So who put rules on when we can and cannot eat food? Because I go back, Justin.
So if you ever watched The Food That Built America?
Yes.
Like, you learn a lot of stuff from that
It is
show
very-
about
very
kind of how we
serious.
got here. And, like, lunch is usually something that was created out of necessity to eat fast, right? That's how sandwiches became like a lunch food, is you would just grab a sandwich and you would eat it. This is a breakfast thing. That one, I don't know. Boy, I couldn't tell you.
Who decided that pancakes and waffles and bacon can't be in the evening or for lunch, right? You said brunch. You
Oh, I love
brunch
brunch.
guy, man.
Well,
There
okay,
ain't-
let's be honest what brunch is. And I've said this multiple times. I love brunch. But if we're going to be honest as to what brunch really is, it's breakfast with drinking. It's what it is, right? I don't go to brunch and order. Like sometimes you could get like lunch style food. I always get breakfast. I just get a mimosa or four along with it. Brunch is breakfast, but just with drinking, and we call it brunch so it doesn't sound like we're drinking at breakfast. I believe. I know there's some people that will have like smoked salmon at brunch, or like you'll go to a brunch buffet, which hello. But I always go with the breakfast food. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's just like anything else. It's cultural, right? Like, why do we call it soda, but in the Midwest they call it pop? Because I think like American breakfast is pretty specific to us. I don't think like I think they have like waffles all the time in like Belgium, right? The Belgian waffles. They just call them waffles, not Belgian waffles. But I think like they have waffles all the time.
I was just curious because I was like, so, but
Okay, what do you now? You don't live in a life where you put parameters. If you like something, you like something. But what do you wish was available for breakfast that is not currently available for breakfast? Because I know what I do.
Call me crazy.
You're crazy.
Chinese food can hit as an interesting.
Oh, like Chinese food leftovers is the best leftovers of all. Like,
yeah,
I know pizza. Like, I wish pizza was available for breakfast.
Yeah,
not leftover pizza, not leftovers. Leftovers are always good for breakfast. I'm talking about getting up 9 a.m. Beep boop boop. I would like pepperoni pizza, please. I just wish it was just how it was. I wish it was just normal.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Because like Chinese, like of all the leftovers, Chinese food's the best leftovers.
Yeah,
the
I think
best.
So. I think so. Pizza's close because it maintains its. Chinese food can be a little tough if it's like fried, and then if it's gets a little mushy.
Still good.
But I'm curious when
the mushier the better for leftovers. I will say. I know that you and my wife both think I'm disgusting, but like
no, I don't think it's just. I just like I would prefer it to be like there are certain things.
Do you reheat the Chinese food? I go cold out of the carton.
Yeah, I reheat it. Good for you, man. I'm impressed. I mean, cold chicken's solid, man.
Like a sweet and sour chicken, just in the square white cardboard Chinese leftover container, fork, and I'm just
crazy to eat cold pizza.
No, I do it all the time.
You like cold pizza? Okay.
But I have found I reheat my pizza now in the oven. I don't microwave it.
Me too.
Bit of a hot take. Cold pizza better than microwave pizza.
Agreed. Microwave pizza makes it soft
rubbery.
and gross.
It gets rubbery, but if you got the time. 350 in the oven, pop that in there for 10 minutes on a baking sheet, you're dialed.
Okay, what time does breakfast stop in your mind? Give me a time because when
11 a.m. 11 a.m. breakfast stops.
Okay, so like when I leave you and I stop at like my favorite local Pizza Hut right down the road at like 10:30, is that breakfast pizza?
They have pizza available at 10:30?
They open at 10.
They have 10 o'clock pizza?
10.
Well, dip of the cap, first off. Respect. But
I've stopped there a time or two.
I wouldn't expect it to be open
at
10.
10 a.m., man, if you can believe it.
Good for them.
Yeah, right? I'm like,
I feel like breakfast is done by 11.
Okay, fair enough.
Or at least lunch should be available.
Yeah. And then,
at 11.
Last question to close it out, Justin, about 30 seconds. Does food objectively taste better outside? Like eating it outside, does it taste better? Whether you're on a camping trip, you're outside at a barbecue in a backyard.
We don't have enough time, but it depends on the food, right? And because I do warm weather food and cold weather food, I think warm weather food, like a chili, would taste so much better inside. But a deli sandwich outside at a picnic, dialed. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to Tyson Alger. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Wednesday, everybody. 620 Rip City Radio.